Welcome to Storytelling. This week's guest is a dedicated entrepreneur who has achieved success in various industries, including Nyos Properties, known for exceptional lodgings, and Bliss Beds, a luxury property brand offering personalised getaways in stunning locations. In this episode, he shares his remarkable story of resilience and second chances. Please welcome Mirko Didara.
Hello, Mirko, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Debbie, and thank you for the invitation.
Mirko, can you describe to us your childhood?
I grew up as a fifth youngest child in Croatia, on the eastern part, in a city that counts around 100,000 people. And yeah, it was nice childhood. I had a nice supportive family. My father is a cobbler, mother was a housewife. And as I said, I was the youngest one. The gap between me and my brother, who was the next youngest, was 7 years. And then the other siblings are older, 8, 10, and 12 years, other 3 sisters. It was nice childhood. I can say that I've been blessed by that. Not many people have this kind of environment where they can grow up, but obviously, as everyone else, we face some adversities. And in my case, I was born in 1985. So in early 90s, there was a Croatian war for independence. And we were 20 miles from the border when a lot of fight was there and a lot of battles. So for some period, we had to immigrate to the coastal part where my mother was born, to the city of Pula. And we were living there for 7 months until the worst battles were happening. So my father was there still he was supporting the army as a civilian. So he did what he could. But obviously it was time when, as a child, you don't think about that too much. Yes, you understand. I was at that time 5, 6 years old, and you understand the war and things like this, but you don't think about them too much. And sometimes, for example, during the period when there was quite a serious bombarding, one Friday afternoon, my father was dimming the headlights, and suddenly I was with him, and suddenly we felt like a detonation. The ground started to shaking, and we fell on the floor, to protect ourselves. And then when the shaking was stopped, we hurry up into the house, and we saw my sisters and mother. They were okay. They were in the kitchen preparing the food. And then when we looked through the window, we saw like a dust curtain, because around maybe 10 grenades, they fell like maybe 100 meters away from us. And obviously that caused the detonation, the shaking of the ground. And thankfully, nobody was hurt, no damages to our house. But what we saw later on, we saw the shrapnel, or a leftover from the grenade. It just landed on our windowsill from the outside. And I think we were protected by God. And it didn't hurt any of our members of our household. So it was quite a interesting experience, and that was just one of them. A few days later, when we woke up, and obviously there was bombing all the time, so you kind of got used to it on those sounds. And when we woke up another day, we saw there was actually a grenade fell into our neighbor's backyard, but it was soil. It was right, so it didn't sound so loud as it would if it hit some kind of building or concrete or such a thing. So that was another experience that you were aware only after it happens. And also, I remember another Saturday morning when it was also during this bombing. And when we woke up, we obviously go out of the street to see what's happening. And we saw another neighbor. He was 3 houses down the road. The grenade fell in his house as well. And this morning, when we were walking throughout the neighborhood, we saw obviously everybody was outside, hopefully not counting the casualties. I don't remember if there was any civilians that died in these situations in our neighborhood. But yeah, it was something strange for a child to be witness of. And even my parents, they were born in 1950, so they didn't experience some kind of war environment event. But yeah, so this was, how should I say, new situation for us. So yeah, I'm glad that we made out alive. Nobody from my immediate family died or so. So I'm thankful for that. And that was one of the events that actually kind of sticked into my mind, like in it's part of my life experience. And quite often, as life's gone, you don't think about it, but sometimes you stop and you think, and you are grateful that you went through such a event and you stayed alive, because this war was happening for about 4 or 5 years, but in different areas, as there was obviously attack and resistance and fighting for the territory. So not for all the period it was happening in my city, but I can still remember those events and still remember aircraft flying over our head and things like this. So yeah, it's something not to forget, but also when you think about it, it's to be thankful to be behind us now.
So it's quite a harrowing experience, particularly for a child. And it also provides a reality check for a lot of people who have never experienced a worn, torn environment.
Yeah, as you said, like we even now, as for the last 4 years we've been living in UK, and last year we were witnesses of war in Ukraine starting, and I feel distant, unfortunately, from those people, right? You hear the wars. The problem is we hear about the wars all the time. Before Ukraine, there was some other wars, right?
Mm.
And the problem is we got blunt on all those news, what's happening, and we might feel sorry for them, but it's hard to understand how it's in those people's shoes that maybe even lost everything. Like we were living in our house, there were no damages, and so, but our neighbors, they got damaged houses. People in Ukraine, they also had they have to leave some people their cities, some people even the country, right, depending on the situation. But it's really hard to, when you think about it, you can't even give proper support to that person. You can maybe accept them in your home, help them in any way, but like those memories, the closer they are to the battle line, it's really hard to understand and to be there, even though of course it's not desirable, but we can't choose the events in our life. And what happened, we have to embrace and try to find the best solution that we can in that moment.
And what was the next transition for you? Explain to us when you decided that it was time to leave and move on.
Yeah, so in my 20s, I was living still in Croatia, working in a construction yard with marble and stone. And at that time, that was in 2014. The thing is, with the crisis that happened in 2008 and 2009, it actually came a little bit later on to Croatia. So the economy was still on its knees. And that was December 2014. I remember my manager told me, like, there is no projects at the moment. I don't know what you're gonna do next month. And that was for me like, all right, what to do now? At that time, I was already married, and me and my wife, we were members of the groups Croatian going to Ireland, because Croatia just entered EU a year or so earlier, and there were many people from Croatia moving to Ireland because it was kind of booming economy. It was promising, and until that point, we were just reading about people going there, and so. But we didn't think about moving. But when we understood there is no job for me, and meaning no salary next month, I had immediately to have a think about it. And for the Christmas time, we visit my wife's parents, and we were just like thinking like, okay, what should we do? And I had saved around £800 that was planned to go towards my venture. I was planning to import used cars from Germany and then selling them in Croatia, trying to make some change in my life as well, not just to depend on my job. And at that point we were like, okay, my English is better, so I'll go to Ireland and try to get a job, trying to find accommodation for us to create a better future. But in case I don't manage to find a job, and so I will come back, and then my wife, she will go to Germany because her German was better. And that was kind of plan that we created in over a few days. And just in 2 weeks later, when we came back to Croatia, I bought a ticket and I booked a hostel for a week. And that was all I knew about the Ireland, about the Dublin. My next plan is just to on board to airplane and to arrive to Dublin. When I came there, I checked in, and what was next thing? It was just trying to find a job and advertisements, going to agencies, and that was actually what was my daily schedule over the next 3 weeks, just trying to understand actually how this country works, what are the best ways to get a job, to increase your chances for employment. And that was kind of exciting part. While I was in Croatia, I was working there for nearly 10 years in construction. So even though I was looking for some jobs, it was unsuccessful, which tells also how hard was in that environment to make a progress, to make a change. And I was kind of stuck in that job. So moving to Ireland, I was happy because there was new opportunity for me. But when I came there, it was like, as you said, like a reality check. Okay, now we are here. The future depends literally on me, on my steps, next decisions. And the funds were limited. As I said, like I had around £800 in my pocket, and then I bought an airplane ticket, booked myself accommodation in hostel. So the funds are limited. You are going into unknown, and Google Maps was my best friend, helping me to navigate through the city. And luckily, in those hotels, there were a few more Croatian people, so we were kind of in the same boat, trying to having the same goal. So that was in a way helpful because it helped me to gather some information and then go from there. So after 3 weeks, I was able to get a job and to get a normal accommodation, not staying anymore in hostels. So that was first mission was accomplished successfully. And that was very exciting for me. I got a job as a kitchen porter through the agency, and I found a house where I was able to share the room with other 3 Brazilian guys who were staying there. So that was my first achievement. I remember when I got a pay slip after next week, because we had a weekly salary, and then it was like, oh, first 178 euros earned. So it was a happy moment. And even though the kitchen porter job wasn't easy, it wasn't as hard as I saw it was later on, because when you are starting something new, you have this momentum that you are just happy, you are winning, those small things. Every new day, it's a new one, new environment, new type of job as well. Everything is new, but you have this positivity that you will make it just because you give the best what you can at that given moment. And this was actually even recognized on first day when I started working as a kitchen porter through agency. So they called because one of their staff couldn't come, and actually my approach to the job and everything, the manager at the end of the day, she said like, "Thank you, you were a lifesaver." And that was another thing. Like I never heard this kind of thing from my manager in Croatia in 10 years, and here first day you hear someone appreciates you. So that was like, like you got a million pounds,
Mhm.
right? When you hear something different and appreciate it. So that was my first steps into unknown. 3 months later, I managed to find another property where I was sharing it was a two-bedroom apartment. We were sharing with another Croatian couple. So yeah, my wife came after 2 months. That was another happy moment. Finally together, and then creating future together in new environments. So that was one of the moments and still today, when I think about this step, I think that was one of the best decisions after I said yes when I got married. Moving to Ireland was next great decision, and I'm happy about it. And another one was when I decided to move to UK 4 years later. So like those are the moments that kind of are, when I point to them, like, and remember, like I was happy that I made them,
Mm-hmm.
because it improved my life so much, and I learned from these situations. I grow as a person. You don't know what will happen tomorrow, but you will give your best, and then when you are in economies that are promising, that are more just bigger markets, if you have more opportunities, you know that the effort you put in, you will be able to reap the good results from that. So this is my takeaway from this period when I was migrating first from my homeland to Ireland, then from again Ireland to UK. It was always those changes, but we were able to use them and take the best from the situations in each one we were.
So tell us about that transition from Ireland to the UK and why you had to make that transition.
I wasn't obviously happy with where I was because you can do more, you are capable for more, and I was just looking for situations or opportunities how to improve my life. So I took a class to drive forklift, and then that helped me to get another job. And over the period of 4 years, I managed to double my salary. But what happened in the meantime, obviously, as you are in different environment, different informations come to you. So I will start thinking more about invest, what else could I do with my life. And one of the events was I attended weekend seminar about property investing, and that was actually a learning company from UK. They came to Ireland, to Dublin, to inform people about the possibilities of property investing. And this is where I understood about some strategies, but also about the property prices in UK. That kind of put a bookmark in my mind, like, okay, UK is place to go if you want to do something with investing and to succeed more in life, because in Ireland, the property prices, they were way more expensive, and therefore the rent as well. And that was one of the reasons why we moved UK when the opportunity came. And actually, what was the opportunity? The Croatian and British government, they made agreement that there is no need for work permits. I believe that was sometimes in 2017, 2018. And around the same time, there was talks about Brexit that was supposed to happen in March or April 2019. So as 2018 was coming to an end, we were thinking, what are the best options for us? Because in Dublin, we were paying one bedroom flat, 1,150 euro per month. And when you think about this, it was so much money. And even though we could afford that, and we had a nice life in Ireland, we still decided, like, I don't want to give a fortune for a rent. And we just decided, okay, what's the best next step? And as I said, like, no need for work permits in UK. Brexit is coming, so we wanted to go there before Brexit. And our lease for apartment was expiring in January 2019. Yeah. And also my wife, they didn't extend her contract at work, so it was directing us into which way to should we go, right? And also I wanted to change my job, and we decided we will go to UK like a beginning of 2019. And the company where I was working with, they had a sister company in UK, and I expressed my plans, and they said, like, yeah, we can get you a job over there. And we asked them where they have the warehouses, and they said, like, oh, we have London, Midlands, like a Northwest. We didn't want to go from one big city, from Dublin to London, just to move from one expensive place to another expensive place. So our thoughts were like, okay, let's go somewhere where smaller town, where the living costs are not so high, and we can always work on increasing our salary, but it's hard to cut costs, right? So that was one of our plans. We decided to go to Northwest. There was a warehouse between St. Helens and Warrington, and we agreed already for the location we're gonna work. Bought a ticket for a ferry and Airbnb for 10 days where I will sleep until I find accommodation. So yeah, January 2019 came. We packed our car. We managed to put all our belongings in our car. And actually, I left 10 days before my wife, so I can find again accommodation and just to settle down. And then she would come soon, shortly after myself. And yeah, I managed to arrive, to land to Holyhead, and then I had a nice drive to Warrington. I've seen the Snowdonia and everything. It was very nice sight at the beginning.
So tell me about the project you're currently working on, because that's really exciting.
So since I came to UK, I was deep dive into property investing. Wanted to see what I can do. Obviously I didn't have a pot of gold, even though I was coming from Ireland. So I just wanted to see what can person who just starts basically from scratch again, what can do in UK. And as I said, I learned about various property investing strategies, and I understand that there was like a serviced accommodation, rent to serviced accommodation, meaning I would rent the property from the landlord. Yeah, then like, look, we would be host and we would be help other professionals or the visitors to the certain city. We would accommodate them and we would pay you the rent or the bills, so you don't have to worry about that, regardless about voids, occupancy, and that's our concern. We will pay your rent and everything. You wouldn't have voids. We will maintain the property, which is also important, and also having professional cleaners. So that's was our kind of showing those benefits to the landlord, why it's good for them, and also we found this strategy that it could bring us the best cash flow. So that was when I understood that. I found myself a mentor, and he helped me for a year to establish a business, to secure the first property, to learn how to deal with the certain situations, to set up the accounts and everything. And that was, I would say, another milestone in my life of, and actually totally directed my kind of way of thinking. And fast forward to today, 4 years I've been running my business, Nyos Properties. And during that period, it was, I can't explain, like when you are employee, the responsibilities that you have then, and then as a business owner, it's like a very, very big difference. But I'm grateful for that decision because it helped me to see the world in a bit different eyes. And 2 years ago, I became a member of HighNet Connect community, which is the community that it helps you to understand and appreciate your values and how you can serve high net worth individuals. And at that point, I developed the idea of I'm already providing short-term accommodation or serviced accommodation to the regular market, and why not just offer same thing but for the VIP market, for high net worth individuals? So I was working on a brand that is called now Bliss Beds, and the idea behind it is to not offer accommodation, but experiences. So tailored experiences for people who want to experience little more, right, from the place where they are visiting. And this is where we understood. And actually, the more we went deeper into this, it just like I was able to crystallize even the purpose. Sometimes you got just idea, but then as you are developing more this idea, you understand other parts, and then when you put them together, they have much more sense. And one of the purposes, actually the main purpose why I developed this brand, was to support homeless people. And I was thinking about that, like homeless people, they deserve second chance. And when I was in Ireland, when I was looking to learn more about investing, there was no person that I could ask about. So I felt like I was alone in the world. So when I moved to UK, I found a group, then more people who are doing this, to whom I can learn from, and that helped. I felt that like a second chance in my life. Finally, was able to grow what was my initial attention. Same idea is now with the Bliss Beds. We want to dedicate the certain amount of profits to help those people, to put them off the streets. But not just that, we also want them to create an entrepreneur hub where they will learn the skills, and the skills that will make them successful business owners, so they could have bigger impact on their environment and further on society. So that was my purpose, that was driven, and that I was pushing as I was working on the latest project, as we were refurbishing the house to meet the high standards. At the same time, I was developing and crystallizing this purpose so we can help the society. And also, you will feel great when you know, yes, I paid so much to enjoy my life. And in the same time, you know that you are actually supporting these people who are actually in need. So I think that's kind of perfect blend that you can do. You can enjoy, and you are straight away, you are serving society. So I'm not aware of some brands that have like that they've been born for the purpose of helping people who are most needed. So that was kind of my transition from moving to UK learning about this business model, and then kind of putting it into on a higher level when you would be able to serve and get in touch with people who are wealthy, who have the means to basically stay in your properties, but also who have this desire to help others through the projects like this. So we plan to charity that will be specifically for that, and then obviously we will be pushing to promote our Bliss Beds project, and then as well to help the people who are the most in need.
I think that's really admirable, and your story is just one of resilience. What advice would you give to anyone listening about starting over? Because you started over several times with literally nothing. What advice would you give?
That's a great question, and that just remind me. The 2 weeks ago, I was reading about stories of the people, and one guy he said like, "Oh, I have just so much income, limited funds, and so and so." And he said like, I don't know how to move forward." They say the first step is the hardest, and really, if I didn't know what my life, in the last 4 years, if I was reading this, I would ask myself the same question: exactly how to make this change. And I was thinking, what did I do different 4 years ago when I just came to UK, and this guy who is living here somewhere in South Wales? And I was like, what's the difference is curiosity. And then I was thinking myself like, throughout the life, it was always curiosity that led me to new things, to new discoveries, and to new ways. And maybe it's not always the best result, right? Sometimes it's hit and miss. Sometimes your curiosity costs you something, and sometimes it brings great results. So I would say stay curious and be willing to learn. I would say if you have this, then you will do well.
Mirko, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you very much, Debbie. It's a pleasure to be a guest at your podcast, and also thank you for asking those questions to make me think again about my life, because quite often we just live through life and we don't think too much about our past, what we went through. But when you share your story with someone else, they will see something special in your life, something that's important that they would like to share with others. And that's why thank you for seeing this special thing in me and allowing me to be guest at your podcast once again.
If you would like further details about Mirko, then please follow the links in the show notes.